Hello and welcome. Today we're going to take a look at the new Merit cream shadows. These have been out for a little while now and I picked them up when they first launched, but honestly I've been so bombarded with holiday releases that we're just getting to them now. I have worn them several times now, really went to test out the formula, so we'll go over that. And then we're also going to take a look at the two new Tom Ford Satin Matte lipsticks. These are part of the Rose Garden collection, so I picked up both of those. We have this shade Intimate Rose and Euphoric Rose. So we're going to take a look at those items. Let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start off with the Merit shadows. And let's start with swatching. And this one here is the shade Nelson. You can see it is going to be kind of like a steel gray. And here it is when you swatch it. Now, when you put it on, you're going to end up spreading it out a bit more. So it's going to end up looking more like this on the lid. So you can see when you shear it out, it's actually going to be more of a warm gray. When you pile it up, it deceptively looks a bit cool, but if you actually are looking at it up close, you can see the warmth in there. But because it builds up to such a deep color, it looks almost black at first from a glance, making it look a little bit cooler. And when you get up close, you can see it really has more of like a deep black brown in it instead. I also picked up the shade Viper. So this is the green shade. And I have to say, I picked up 3 of them and they're very creamy, kind of a thin cream kind of texture. But my shade Viper is a little bit less smooth than the other 2. It's not, it just feels maybe a little bit less emollient. So this is Viper. You can see it's kind of a deep green, and this green has, again, a bit of brown in there. So it's actually going to be kind of like a warm, dusty brown here. I mean, dusty green here. And then I also picked up the shade Social. And, you know, I was hoping this was going to be more purple. This is really more of a dusty rose. So here's Social. I think they described it as mauve on the website. But you can see it's really more of a dusty rose, dusty pink shade versus a mauve. There's not enough purple in there. And when you shear it out, you can see a little bit of an oranginess. So it's definitely going to be warmer. This shade could look cool on people with warmer skin tones, but if you have neutral or cooler skin tones, you're definitely going to see the warmth in there. So these are 3 I picked up: Nelson, Viper, and Social. And I just wanted to go over the packaging briefly. So we do have plastic down here at the bottom, and we've got this cap, and it unscrews. And when I unscrewed that, you can kind of hear a click. So when you put this back on, you click it, right? And then sometimes it's like there's a double click. So let me show you maybe on this one. Oh, that one's not doing it this time. It's like sometimes you get past the first click. Yeah, this one's doing it. And it's still pretty loose after it seems like it should be secured. If you keep turning it, you'll get a second click. So I don't know, maybe it depends on exactly which part of the rotation you put your lid on, but just make sure it is firmly closed before you close it up. Now, the lid itself, you can see we have like a bit of foil in there, you know, one of those types of sealant type coverings that you pull off of like your food products and so forth. So let's go ahead and talk about these while we look at the demos. So these are the Merit Solo shadows, and we have 0.17 ounces of product, or 5 milliliters of product. There's a 6-month shelf life, and these are made in Italy. Now, these are a matte cream shadow, but I have to say they really feel more of a thin oil texture, like an oily wax, versus like a thicker, cushiony cream, like you might have experienced with things like Tom Ford and so forth. So this definitely is going to have a thin, silky texture to it, but it feels pretty emollient. You can definitely feel the oils in here. The second ingredient is dimethicone. So just something to know, we've got a bunch of different silicates and so forth in here as well. So it is clean, it's vegan and cruelty free. And I have to say, you know, these have been kind of hit or miss from what I've heard from other people. You know, some people love them, some people don't. I'm kind of like, They're okay. So here's the thing. You can see when I'm putting these on that if you put it on and you shear it out with a brush or your finger and you're kind of getting that thin layer, you can definitely see patchiness. And I haven't really found a way around that. Now, when I wear these shadows with a primer underneath, the longevity of them, it's okay. You know, like, yeah, there's some mild creasing, but it's not something super noticeable. So it's not bad. But if I don't use a primer, you can see you can get that mild creasing starting pretty immediately. And you can see in the wear test here, like after an hour, you can see some mild creasing without a primer. So do they ever become a total creasy mess on me? They do not. They never, totally slip down my lids or anything like that, but they don't stay as nicely as when they were first applied for that long of a time period either. So I think they're okay, but that part actually isn't that bad. For me, it's more of the patchiness. If you pile these up on the lid and you get more of an opaque color, kind of what you get with that first swatch before shearing it out, I think is gorgeous. But that, you're going to get a lot of creasing with that. And that's when you actually get things kind of shifting down your lid and so forth. So it's not really going to hold up well if you pile it up in layers and you get a deeper, more opaque shade. I like to wear mine more sheared out, but unfortunately the patchiness is the part that I don't love. Now from a distance, you can't really see that too much. And if you do too thin layers, like the first layer could be sheer, perhaps you get some patchiness with that, but then you put on a thin second layer, that pretty much is, in my opinion, the best way to apply these. So you kind of hide that patchiness for the most part, and your color is more of a medium depth of the swatch colors. And I think that's probably the best. You can do that either with a brush or with a finger application. I do think because it is so emollient, you can see in the demos, I was a little messy with my fingers and it was kind of getting on other parts of my face and so forth. It wipes up so easily. It's so creamy that it doesn't set down like immediately, or actually it doesn't fully set at all, but it doesn't feel tacky or sticky. So I have to say, overall, I think these are just okay. They are definitely not going to be a favorite cream shadow. I don't plan on purchasing any more of these. However, they do have some nice kind of dusky neutral shades that make for nice one and dones for a quick look. So Social, I was kind of disappointed that it wasn't more purple, but actually I think kind of sheared out on the eyelid, it makes a really nice one and done shade. And so yeah, I like these, but I don't like them enough to repurchase. So I'd love to know if you've tried these and what your thoughts are. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few other cream shadows and then move on to the Tom Ford lipsticks. All right, so we're going to do a quick overview of a variety of different cream shadows. This here is Manasi 7, and this one is going to be in the shade, what is this one? This one is Ochaya. So this is a pretty green with a bit of a reflect here, kind of your green with your reddish brown reflect. We'll put this one right here. You can see this is also gonna be a thin, more of an oilier texture as well. It doesn't feel quite as much of an oil content as the Merit, but these are also gonna be a clean beauty brand. And I have to say the Merit actually hold up better on me than the Manasi 7. The Manasi 7, they crease on me pretty quickly even with a primer. So I feel like the Merit, the creasing's more minimal. So just something to note there. These are beautiful on the lid though, and they're really easy to smooth out. So I would say they're kind of comparable options. I also wanted to look at Phytosurgeons. So this is a Canadian indie brand. This one here is Velvet Leaf. This is actually, this one is, it's too dried up now. This is the first one I ever bought from them. So it's years old. I'll have to rehydrate that one. But let's look at a newer one that I have. And this is going to be the shade Chilled Cherry. And these are going to be kind of a thin texture. They are silky, but these are the best holding performing cream shadows I've ever used. So it has kind of just a thin silky texture on the lid. You've got a variety of different colors. They are an indie brand, so they don't always have all of their colors available, and they do, discontinue them to make new shades. So definitely pay attention when those are available. But if you're looking for a cream shadow that really stays put on the lid, These are the best. They even work for friends of mine with oily eyelids. So I think those are fantastic. I would definitely pick those over the Merit. Then we have the Chantecaille Mermaid Eye Matte. This one here is Olivia. And I feel like these are a nice thin textured one as well. This is an old one. You can see it's still performing really well. This is actually older than my Velvet Leaf from Phytosurgeons. So this holds up better without drying out. And I would say that these feel like a slightly drier version of the Phytosurgeons. And I would say that they hold up really well as well. The Chantecaille, though, they don't have very many colors. I haven't seen them make new colors in, gosh, many years, probably at least 5 years. So, you know, you don't have very many options, but I think they're a great formula. This here is Charlotte Tilbury in Chocolate Bronze. And this is going to be like a moussey cream shadow. I love the texture of these. These can crease, you know, depending on how much you put on, because it is going to be a more emollient texture. But I would say that these perform better than the Merit in terms of creasing. I love the cushiony aspect of them. In my opinion, these are probably the best Charlotte Tilbury product that she makes. I love these in the Ice Mesmerize. I haven't tried the Ice Mesmerize mattes, but in the original versions, they are awesome. We also have Tom Ford. Now, this is a little older, so it is starting to dry up, but this is Black Sand, and this is similar in texture to the Charlotte Tilbury. So you've got kind of that moussey texture, but you can see that this, you can really shear out. It shears out smoothly. It's not patchy. And when you do kind of use less of this, you get more of a powder texture. These perform really well. I would say that those are comparable to each other, the Charlotte Tilbury and the Tom Ford. And then I also wanted to take a look at Jones Road. Now, these are different. These are called the Just a Sec eyeshadows. And these are kind of just these little like cream shimmer pots. These are going to be thin. These are great as toppers. You've got a bunch of different shades. They're primarily light. If I use these on their own on the lid, I have to say I do like these. So I would say the performance of these in terms of creasing isn't quite as strong as Phytosurgeons and Tom Ford and Charlotte Tilbury, but it would be right under there. These actually perform very well on me. And all of the shades I have at least are sparkly. I have a few of these, and I think they're a nice formula. So I hope that was helpful, kind of get some other options. I think the Merit ones are okay, but I do think that there are better options on the market. Let's go ahead and move on to the Tom Ford lipsticks. So these are from the Garden Party collection. You've got the Tom Ford logo on the top. You've got this beautiful white and black packaging. It's very sleek. This is more of a matte white, and then you have more of the shiny black. And I have to say, I really love the packaging on these. These are, you know, hefty. And this shade here is number 1, Intimate Rose. This is the one I've been using the most. So these are a satin matte formula, but they go on satin. But within, I would say 30 minutes, you've got more of that drier matte look. They don't really look satin on the lips for a long period of time. So that is something to note there. The other shade here is number 2, Euphoric Rose. And I think these are also just okay. So let's move on to the lip demos. But when I first started testing these out, I've used these before, but I was just like, oh, these will be exactly the same. But I did notice that I had a little bit more of an issue with performance at first, depending on what I was eating. So if I'm going ahead, I didn't even record the first wear test that I did with these because I put it on, I blotted it, and just had a little bit more on top. And I went out to eat and I had Chinese food. So, it was a little oily, but it wasn't like terrible. It's not like I was getting it all over my lips. But by the end of the meal, it was gone. So there wasn't even anything to show. So I was pretty disappointed by that. So then I wanted to test it out again. And that time, I really didn't eat too much. So the wear test that you're seeing here, that one, I didn't really eat too much, while I had that on. I forgot, I think I had some bread, like maybe a sandwich or something, but that was it. Nothing oily, greasy, nothing wet. So it held up much better there, but I have to say I was kind of disappointed with the longevity of that. Now, this is essentially what you see in the wear test. That's mostly just from me drinking out of my water bottle. So you can see what you get with kind of like that kind of time period. So, you know, it was a little disappointing for the performance. However, are these supposed to be a super long lasting thing? Not necessarily, but I was hoping for a little bit more. The shades themselves, when you look at them, you can see that the, Euphoric Rose, it has a peachier vibe next to, the Intimate Rose looks peachier than Euphoric Rose when they're next to each other. But on its own, the Intimate Rose is really going to be more of a nude rose shade with a touch of peach, but I wouldn't say it's as warm as it looks when it's next to Euphoric Rose here. Euphoric Rose is definitely going to be more of a deeper pink, and there's a little bit of a purpley mauve tone in there, but unfortunately not as much as I was hoping. The promo photos definitely made it look much closer to Sugar Glider, which is why I decided to pick these up. So between the two of them, I've been wearing the lighter Intimate Rose shade quite frequently. Now, as for dryness, I would have to say that they, as I mentioned, the satin look kind of fades pretty quickly, and then you're left with kind of that dry matte lip. I wouldn't say they're drying on my lips, but a little bit drying on my lips. So, they're just not a favorite formula. Now, let's take a look at a couple comparisons. The first one I want to take a look at is Tom Ford's Sugar Glider. And I'm going to stick this one right here in the middle so you can kind of see how they compare. Sugar Glider is definitely going to have more purple in there. It's going to be lighter. You can see there's definitely more of a deeper pink, more closer to a red in Euphoric Rose. And Intimate Rose is going to be more of that nude peach in comparison. So, definitely pretty different. I was really hoping they would be closer. Now, I also wanted to take a look at this one. This is Bad Lieutenant. And this is another classic Tom Ford shade. I wanted to see how that compared to Intimate Rose. And you can see here that Bad Lieutenant's a little bit more pink, whereas Intimate Rose is going to be a bit more peachy. But they are going to be pretty similar in depth of color. This is definitely going to be cooler, though, than the new Intimate Rose. This one here is Blazing Kiss. And you can see next to Euphoric Rose, Blazing Kiss is going to have more red in it. It's going to be a little bit, it's really just more red. This one here is Sable Smoke. Let me put this one here. You can see that's going to be more peachy. It's more of a milky peach. You can see there's definitely more orange in this peach. This one here is Neutral Party. Let's stick this one here in the middle. And you can see it's kind of in between the two shades. So it's going to be warmer in tone than either of them. But as for the color, it's still going to be more of a nude rose shade. So it's kind of more of a mix of the two, the Intimate Rose and the Euphoric Rose, just on a slightly warmer scale. And last up, let's take a look at Pink Charade. I'm going to put this right underneath here. You can see it's going to be more pink than Intimate Rose, but really pretty color. Unfortunately, I wish they would bring all of these back like a little bit more easily to find. So overall, I think the new Tom Ford lipsticks, they are going to be nice colors. I do wish that there was a little bit more of a satin finish to them. I wish it didn't fade so quickly and turn matte. And I wish that it was slightly more hydrating because it just dries down to the point where you feel like you don't have anything on your lips, which for me makes me feel like I always need to put on lip balm. So I wish it didn't get to that point, especially so quickly. So longevity, it is what it is. It doesn't bother me, but it would be nice if they're going to be that matte that it lasted a little bit longer. It doesn't last as long as a traditional matte lipstick, but it definitely lasts a little bit longer than a satin lipstick. So it's kind of in the middle there. However, it has the matte appearance. So overall, I think the two new shades are nice. You can see they're a little bit different from other ones that I have. And yeah, I would have to say though, both of these products I think are just okay. So that's kind of where I stand on these. I'd love to know if you've tried either of these, the Merit or the Tom Ford. Let me know what you think. Again, the Tom Ford packaging though, I absolutely love the packaging there. Right now, by the way, I am wearing the Intimate Rose shade, but I topped it with the Tom Ford Rose lip oil, which I've been using a lot. It's just a clear lip oil, but I like it. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you very soon. Have a great day.